Hey,
Okay.
hey,
Perfect.
hey. I was like trying to angle so we could
Oh no,
both.
you
Okay,
good.
lovely. How are you?
Perfect. I'm good. Happy Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
How are y'all doing?
Doing pretty
We're
good.
doing good.
Doing
How are
good.
you?
I'm good. I'm good. Can't complain.
Yes.
Awesome.
The people are rolling in, so thank y'all for y'all's patience.
All right.
We're just gonna start. So,
Okay.
hey everyone. My name is Brandon, and I'm a writer for Gay Magazine. And today I'll be hosting our second annual Love on Live series. And we have our wonderful guest, DaShawn Usher, who is the Director of Communities of Color and Media at GLAAD. And we got singer, choreographer, creative director, Victor Jackson. So I'm so excited to be talking with y'all today.
Yes, we're happy to be here. We're happy to
Yes,
be celebrating Valentine's Day with Gay
right. I
Things.
try to do my pink. Where's y'all pink at? Y'all don't got no red?
It's,
Deshaun
it's for
has,
Black
Look,
Love.
yeah,
yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah, we're
That's
gonna do
what
that. We're gonna do
yes,
that.
it's for Black Love. We are representing Black Love today. Yes.
I see the yellow. I feel like yellow is a color of love too. I
Yeah.
see
Yeah,
the yellow
yeah.
that you wearing.
Friendship.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
friendship.
there you go. Yeah. I was like,
Yes.
where's the yellow
I
one?
was
But there
like
you go. Yeah.
very much up under here.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had the first off. I want to start off. I feel like y'all are matching right now, and y'all were matching. I feel like when we first kind of met too. So I feel like y'all have like a synergy going on. So I think everybody wants to know, how did y'all meet?
Here, actually.
On
Instagram.
Instagram.
On
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
I interviewed, I don't know if y'all know them, T and Drew on TikTok
Hmm.
yesterday, and they met on Instagram. They said back then though they had to use Kick. So at
Oh,
that time, I don't think you could. I think
Like,
you could still DM, but they still had to use
oh,
Kick. But
okay. No, we
okay,
did. This was 2020. It
okay,
was the middle of the pandemic. Deshawn had posted a screenshot of a tweet on his Instagram. And the tweet was like, imagine being black, but being expected to show up to work with a smile on your face every day when black people are being murdered by police. Imagine being queer, being expected to show up to work every day with a smile on your face with black trans women being killed in the street. Now imagine being both and trying to like exist in America. And
mm-hmm.
just like where I was with everything that was going on, seeing that message just really resonated with me. I was familiar with his work, like work with Moby, work with GLAAD and Neon. But seeing those words put just a lot of language to how I was feeling during a lot of the racial unrest, the social unrest of 2020. And so that our exchange around that post kind of sparked more conversation. Then I had a very present moment where the words of that tweet like
Mm-hmm.
happened. And I was just having like a really bad day.
Mm-hmm.
He DM'd me and he was like, "Happy Wednesday." Like we had just
like
kind of
a
at that
random
point
day.
just to like talking to each other because it was the middle of the pandemic. And he hit me up, was like, "How's your day?" I was like, "It's terrible. I'm on this Zoom call. Like, here's my number. Text me and I'll call you like when I get off the
Let's take
Zoom." And
this off of Instagram.
yeah, and so we took it off of Instagram in a moment of kind of like craziness, but
Mm-hmm.
that conversation ended up being like a 3 hour conversation. Um, and it started a really cool friendship. And I'll say about
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 months later, we had the conversation around like being in a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, kind of dig you.
I kind of did it, right?
So
Yeah.
so y'all were just still talking through the phone, or did y'all go on any dates
We were still talking
before that?
through the phone because,
I lived in New York.
yeah, and I
Oh,
was
you live in
living
New
in
York? I'm assuming
Atlanta.
both of y'all were in Atlanta.
No, so
Oh, okay.
we weren't in the same city. So a lot of our initial, I'll say, because that was like what?
It was July, like June. It was June because I remembered it was essentially when people were like, Black Lives
Right.
Mhm.
Matter. Oh shit, Pride's coming up.
Yeah,
Like,
I
it
want to.
wasn't
So
like
I
it
want
was
to say it was
that.
like May. It was like
Yeah.
May.
May when we had that kind of initial conversation. But we didn't go on a date until July.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was around
So
that
it
two
was
month.
like a lot of texts to phone calls to FaceTimes, and then
And we were also in like high COVID.
yeah, I mean it was
Right.
like
It was like,
super
Right.
it
COVID. Like it was
high COVID.
super
It was like,
COVID. I mean,
so
Atlanta had its own rules, but
Yeah.
you know it was super COVID, so it was really
yeah, because I actually was coming to Atlanta for a week. And so during that week was when, like, in that time frame of July was when I was like, oh, like, let's meet. And yeah, from there, we have been literally together.
together ever since
Wow.
that first date.
So
Yeah,
y'all left the summer with the relationship.
yeah, we did. Peace. It was cool. It was cool.
And
Yeah.
I love the fact that the foundation of y'all's relationship was a friendship. Because I feel like, personally, I feel like ideally that is the goal.
Yeah. I mean, because you want to like get,
Like the
yeah,
person.
you want to like
Right,
the person.
right.
Like,
Love is great.
Love is
but
great.
you want to actually like the person that, like, you're spending most of your time with. And,
Yeah.
and when you're like working or doing or creating or doing all this other stuff, it's like, I just want to come home to peace, and I want to come home to like an ease of a friendship, of like someone that I want to talk about my day and talk about like their day and hear about their day. And so yeah, I appreciate that part of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the comments. Somebody saying love is not always enough. Liking your partner is key. Heavy on the like. Yeah. People
Yes,
don't
because what did
emphasize.
Tina say? What love got to do with
Love.
it?
It's a secondhand emotion. Like you have to really, you got to care for somebody. You have to care for somebody's well-being and their safety. And you know, we have a tendency as humans not to care about people that we don't like. And so it becomes this love is a domino effect. But like when you really get to know someone, then you get to love things about them and then love spending time with them. And that becomes like an overriding emotion. But yeah, it was very important. And I mean, at that point, I was 35. And so like I had my first boyfriend when I was 16. So it had been some 20 odd years of walking in a dark hallway trying to figure out where I'm going. You know, being a Black queer man, figuring out, discovering both my own uniqueness and how that uniqueness relates in a partner dynamic. And so it was really important at that point in my life to really not be in any spaces, romantic or otherwise, with people who did not like me on a like base level, because I was growing into a new version of myself, and I wanted to make sure I was partnered with someone who was committed to their own personal evolution, as well. So yeah, turned out to be him.
And from what I understand, y'all are engaged, right?
Yes, we are.
How did that proposal go?
It's a two-part
Okay.
proposal. It's an engagement circle, if you
That's what we
will.
call it.
Yeah. But now, well, hit it.
Yeah. So Victor apparently was going to propose to me at the Beyonce concert in London. Did not happen. It was cold as hell.
Yes.
His phone died.
Yes.
The floor, the stadium floor. If you've ever been to a concert, you know the floors are dirty. So it was like, it was just not the ideal of it. And so we flew back from London to New York, and we stayed at the TWA like hotel because like we had a layover essentially to come back to Atlanta. And we're there, mind you, after that concert I got sick, so and the food wasn't like that great. And so I got back and I was like, oh, back in America, I'm just like so happy. I was like, I was feeling better. I'm over here. We go to dinner.
Yes.
I get drunk. I'm like twirling around in the hallways.
Yes,
Just
having
I'm
the
just,
time of his
just happy. And I'm like,
His
it's
vibe.
like, what's going on? Meanwhile, he's like recording everything. And I'm just like, all right, let's just what he does.
Right.
And so I was just like, I don't know.
Content
Right.
creator.
Yeah,
Right.
I was like, why is he getting the floor? I was like, so I'm over here just so
vibing.
and we get back to the hotel room and literally I'm like yapping about something and I turn around and yeah, he's down on his knee with a ring and asked if I would marry him. And I said yes. Because the other thing is that he had hinted at like a proposal.
Right.
He was saying it like that it was gonna happen during Moby Fest, and I was like, do not do that. I was like, we already had like rules of engagement for an engagement of like we're not gonna do any holidays, no birthdays, and no events because if you know us, it's like he does events, I do events, and it's just like you're usually just like hyper focused on that event. And I was just like, I don't want to have to think about a proposal on top of that. And so when it happened inside of like the hotel room, I just thought, wow, like someone that knows me and knows the intimacy of like that moment where like you know, like we give so much like publicly and live our lives like publicly, and it's like to just have that moment for ourselves and then to call like his family and my family and our friends. It was a very very special moment. And so then I decided that after I did Moby Fest and the Black Queer Creative Summit, I was like, I need to do a proposal to Victor, but I want to be able to capture it differently than how we did our proposal. So I had planned a surprise proposal in Paris, and I was talking with a photographer who was like a Black photographer in Paris who like captured people very well, particularly like Black people in Paris. So I was like, my fiance, we're already engaged. I was like, but I want to propose to him. I was like, but it's so normal for him to do a photo shoot, so he's actually not going to think anything of this. I was like, you just have to tell him to like look in a direction and he will like hold that and do that. And literally, it's exactly what happened. He's like, Victor, look over the ocean. Look at the tower and something. And so he's telling me, he's like, okay, now do it. And I'm like, oh shit. And so I'm like, I had like the ring. It was like in like this bag, and I'm trying to get the bag, and then I'm trying to give him the bag, and I'm like, I don't know how long he's gonna like stay there.
Meanwhile, I'm posing. Like I'm
posing. You in your model mode.
Yeah. It was like,
I don't know what's going on behind me.
No camera is clicking at this time. He's helping me trying to get the proposal right. And so then he's like, okay. Then like he's like, turn around. And Victor turns around, but he turns around the other way. And so he doesn't see me like on the knee.
I was after fumbling with the bag.
I was taking the picture.
So I'm like, and then the photographer is like, look down. And so he looks and he's like, wait a second. And so, yeah, I was able to do that proposal to complete the proposal circle. But for me, it was also one of those things. It was both our first time in Paris. Yeah. It was being able to like have like engagement photos also, right? That like we can send out and post and do some other things with. But it was just like, I was like, we had the intimate moment, and I was like, how do I capture something also like with us? So yeah.
I love how both of y'all were in your own worlds when the other was proposing.
No, actually, yes. And when we went, it's funny because when we had dinner at the TWA Hotel, we stayed. The name of the restaurant was the Paris Cafe, and he proposed to me in Paris. So it was just like, and there's a video like of the room that we were in, and it had all these TWA posters, and one was of London, and one was of Paris. So it's like. It's just really cool how it's all come full circle. Yeah.
I love it. Multi-country engagement.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about kind of like a little bit about romantic love, friendship. I want to get into self-love. So, specifically, this is for you, Victor. I know you were raised in the church. Your father was a pastor, your mom is a first lady. And I feel like from seeing your concerts, I literally saw them perform with you at some points. And I feel like the narrative oftentimes with Black queer folks is, the church, get ousted from the church, get ousted from the family. So seeing that was so special and unique to me. Can you kind of speak to your family's influence on your journeys with like self-love, confidence, all of that?
There is a scripture that says that the people perish for a lack of knowledge. And I think a lot of breakdown that we see happen with queer family members and their non-queer counterparts is a lack of knowledge. And for a very long time in my life, I was still figuring things out, right? Still figuring out, who am I? What does this mean? What's happening with my body? Who am I attracted to? And how does all of that compute in my mind? And while there were still, arrows being shot from the pulpit from whoever was occupying the pulpit, I was still on this journey of discovering myself and discovering who I am in God. One of my favorite scriptures is Psalm 139:14. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. I learned that when I was 8 years old. And so as I was hearing sermons and conversations and emails were being sent to the church of people demonizing my identity, I also knew that there were parts of my identity that I was still discovering. And so at a certain point in 2020, actually, I moved back in with my family during the pandemic. So it was my mom, my dad, me, and my two sisters. And it was such a healing moment because it was a household of adults. There were no children, and so, we were able to have adult conversations about who we are as people, what we require to thrive, the love that we found for ourselves throughout the traumatic experiences that we had each kind of encountered in our lives, and how we could be especially and particularly and intentionally loving towards each other in the ways that that person needed love. I think we talk about love languages a lot within relationships, but we don't talk about it like within our family dynamics, within our friendship dynamics. And we have that one friend who will plan the trip, or we have that one family member who will fix your house. And it's like, there are people who show love and demonstrate love and verbalize love and communicate love in different ways. And my sexual identity is one facet of that. And so when I started kind of just opening up my whole life, not just like who I love, but like my whole life. And I think a lot of people have seen that in just like the way I've shown up in the world from 2020 to now. It's helped my family kind of find freedom with not who I am when I'm around them. And they have to recalibrate to who I am when I'm not with them. I had to become Victor Jackson, Mr. Glamrock. So however you know me, I had to find a consistency in my personage. And that came from loving myself and all of myself consistently. And so that opened up a new invitation for my family and other members of my tribe to love me and interact with me in a different way, because I was loving and interacting with myself in a different way.
It sounds like kind of a unification of yourself.
Yes.
I feel like oftentimes, I was speaking about this yesterday, oftentimes, especially Black queer folk, we have to kind of fragment ourselves and leave certain pieces behind. And it's always kind of a feeling of chasing a void almost, or filling a void. But when you have that completeness, it's like, I have my whole family with me, my partner with me, and you get to live as your whole self.
Yeah.
In all areas, you know, like what you said, you don't have to be a certain person here, certain person here, certain person,
Yeah.
you know. Mm-hmm.
Wholeness starts with honoring all versions and parts of yourself.
Wait, repeat that. That was good.
Sure.
Yeah. No, wholeness starts with honoring all versions and facets of yourself. Honoring them, figuring out what those versions and facets need, figuring out what their expiration dates are, figuring out all these things, doing that work to not be afraid of yourself. Because when you're not afraid of yourself, you can show other people how to navigate whatever fear, trepidation, resistance they might have in navigating with you and your uniqueness.
I'm letting that all marinate. That was really good.
Yes,
I think that people needed to hear that one. So I have another question. So you see, like in 2019, around 2019, 2020, I felt like we saw a surge in just Black queer media. Of course, you know, Pose was a landmark show. You have P Valley, you have Legendary, things of that nature. And now I feel like since last year, you've seen now shows being canceled, such as Legendary, Rap Shit, kind of these pro-Black, pro-queer shows. What do y'all think is kind of the current state in terms of Black queer representation, especially when it comes to love? And also specifically for you, DaShawn.
No, I mean, literally, like, this is
Because
job.
that was open to both of y'all for
No,
sure.
no, but I was like, I'll let him take the lead on this because this is a large part of the work that he does with GLAAD. So for sure,
I wanted to get into that. And how does your role kind of impact or increase that representation?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people that like we're not at a deficit of like storytellers, content creators, writers, directors, producers, but where we're at the deficit of is who gets to like greenlight our stories, right? And who to champion and support that. I mean, Pose loved the show, but it's still championed by Ryan Murphy, right? So and it's a different type of show than Noah's Ark, which was championed by Taki and Polk. But you also didn't get to a certain degree of like, if you look at how many seasons of Queer as Folk that ran versus like how many seasons of Noah's Ark that ran and what was the support, what's the publicity, it's not equitable. And so I think the biggest thing is that what we see, whether it's queer, particularly Black and queer, but even if it's Black, is that you still are at a deficit. And so you can have someone as big as Issa Rae, and even with like the success of Insecure, and even before Insecure, when she was doing her own like awkward Black girl, but it's like to create and understanding that like you're not getting the same budgets, you're not getting the same support, you're not getting the same promotion, you're not getting the same licensing and like overall deals that other people that, you know, usually white, usually cisgendered folks like come into the rooms and get like all of the opportunities. And so it's just it's just like trying to figure out a way to create a network and people to keep the visibility alive. There's like so many different content creators. Like literally, I created this initiative at GLAAD called our Equity in Entertainment and Media Initiative that like centers essentially storytellers in various mediums. The first cohort were short filmmakers, and it was just looking at 10 amazing individuals that essentially are telling these stories, but they just need platforms and support and networks and like to keep telling those stories. And so I think that's the biggest thing is that we can't give up like thinking that like these stories or believe in the hype though too when you see that, oh, this show has been canceled, this show blah blah. But it's like knowing what these shows have done to really shift culture, right, might also be the reason why they are canceled, because of the impact. Like Pose being like the first show to censor like Black and brown trans women and like Black queer men and gay men. It's like that show like shifted the careers of everybody like involved, but also normalized like how trans folks can show up in television, right? Beyond just being sex workers, beyond just being all of this other stuff, but also legendary, like introduced like ballroom culture, and which was like up until that point, honestly, largely underground.
Right.
And depending on who you hung out with, whether or not it was either praised or people like shunned it. And so this was even within the LGBTQ community. And so we wouldn't have a Renaissance era that was so liberating if we didn't have the poses and the legendaries and these other like opportunities for folks to actually be displayed, right? And have these characters come into folks' home. And so I do think that we're not at the deficit, despite what you hear or think or see, is that like, you know, Black love does exist, Black queer love exists. It's just like actually having the support to keep it going.
Yeah. And I think it's also important for us to always, and Gay Magazine does a really great job of doing this, like highlighting the content creators and creatives just period who are making work, the digital series that are out here that are amazing, Queerious, For the Boys, like all of these shows, the Chasing series, like all of these exist. And I think it's important for us to like honor the existence of these moments, even if it's not on a, you know, a network per se, right? Because it's like Awkward Black Girl was a YouTube series first, then it was a book, then it made way for Insecure, you know. And so it's like it's important for us to honor every stage of the creative process and not just really idolize the final step. Like we have to honor like all the steps, because there are people, queer folk in our community, who are making incredible films, incredible scripted series, incredible unscripted series, music, theater pieces, and it's everywhere. It's all around us. And so I do want to just like say, while we are addressing a deficit, you know, there are lots of seeds being planted in very fertile soil, and we as a queer community can do like our part to fertilize those seeds.
So it sounds like just like a lot of the powers in highlighting, because it sounds like it's not like it's a deficit, like I'll say it. They're there, and especially now more than ever. Let me see if I get this word right. I feel like now things are democratized.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where everyone is doing their own thing. They're not waiting on a network to pick them up. You know?
And it comes, you know, and I mean, it's its own journey. Like, be clear, like it's its own journey.
Yeah.
But you know, if we were to say, oh, this series is coming out that so and so is doing, let's all watch this series on YouTube every week for 8 weeks. That creator now can go into meetings with a different set of analytics.
I see what you
That different set of analytics. They don't even have to be going to a network meeting. They could be going to a sponsorship meeting. They could be going to a brand deal meeting. But like having those analytics, like the power that we do have is analytics, is clicking on YouTube and watching something, clicking on our streaming service and listening to something, buying a ticket to a show when it comes to our city, because those numbers help the creators get the support and funding and green lights that they need to like continue on their journey.
It's so funny because when you said that, it also, I'm hopeful, and I think honestly we may get there quicker. Of like, if you look at the change and the evolution of music, right? Like back growing up, it was like everyone, like in order to make it, you had to have a major record label deal or like time. And if we literally just talk about it, Victor is like, if I wanted to release a song, I literally could just go to iTunes and upload it, and bam, it's out in the universe. Versus before, you could only do it on SoundCloud, where now you can do it on YouTube, you can upload it to Prime. I don't know if Tubi is still accepting things, but they might. But it's like there's so many outlets that
you can use an iPhone,
right? That like that allow you. You can shoot it on your iPhone, right? And like it's there's. I think like we're moving past the access barriers. I think we're moving past, and I think that we're going to see that. In literally, Issa is talking about this now, of that, like, wanting to be independent of the networks, because that, like, you still have to deal in the politics of the BS versus what you know that you can get, and you probably will have a better deal of being able to license your stuff to multiple, like, networks and stuff. And we're seeing this with, like, Suits. We're seeing this with, like, the BET Pluses shows that are now on Netflix, and it's because it's not because there wasn't an audience for them. It was because, like, they created it, and they're eventually know that, like, the audience will follow too. So
yeah, y'all make some really good points.
That's our take on media.
Right.
As you see, we talk about this a lot at home.
Yeah. Well, and that's a perfect segue. I feel like with both of y'all being creatives, how often at like a professional level do y'all's work like kind of overlap? I saw both of y'all in your grooving music video and stuff like that. So like how often do y'all's work kind of, or work, how often do you guys work together?
I think there are moments where we invite each other in at different degrees. I think we're always, we respect the space that each one of us take up in our respective worlds. We also respect, like, the insight, just as, like, an outside person. Like, being able to have the focus group of a partner that you trust is, like, priceless. Like,
group of a partner. I like
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I can play a song for him. I could try on an outfit for him. I could run a take of a choreography. Like, I can, and this is somebody whose taste I trust, whose experience I value. You know what I mean? And so there are a lot of moments like that. And then there are some kind of, like, closer moments where my agency may, like, be a consultant, or
okay, I can hear you, yeah.
you know what I mean, where we may, like, work in, like, closer things like that, like Glam Rock Soul Entertainment Group, which is my agency, partnered with Moby last year to launch MoveX Moby, which was the official dance crew of Moby Fest 6. And we choreographed and did creative direction for the artists that were there and worked with these dancers. And so, like, there are some moments like that that are a bit more, like, closely connected. But for the most part, I'm always asking him, like, what do you think? Yeah, about pretty much everything.
And I think, and we also set boundaries, so too, like,
right, because it could get, I'm sure it could
like,
blur.
It's not an investment.
Yeah,
right.
Part of it is that it's like Victor existed in a world before I met him. I existed in my world before we met each other, and I think sharing those worlds have been interesting and, like, refreshing to, like, have different opportunities and exposure of, like, knowledge of, like, just various things. But it is also sometimes, like, when they're brainstorming or something, or I'm brainstorming or something, we have this saying of, like, comfort or solutions, because it's like sometimes we want to be comforted and affirmed in that, like, yes, this idea is great, you keep going with it and run with it, versus solutions where it's like, nah, I'm kind of stuck on this idea and I want to be able to, like, keep it going and grow it. But it's like there's nothing worse than having, like, an idea or honestly, or a partner, in partner in any aspect of whether it's a friend, it's a relative, it's a lover, but it's like someone that, like, wants to, like, take your idea and then turn it into their own, and you're like, damn, I haven't even, like, fleshed it out yet. So give me, like, that time. And so it's also respecting those boundaries of, like, when we do or when we're, like, thinking of, like, ideas or building out some, like, initiatives or programming, it is having, like, that comfort or solution conversation where it's like, so what do you think? It's like, but yeah, I want you to tell me it in this aspect. Hold the notes till I circle back, because sometimes it's better for us to just, like, find and discover those notes on our own than someone just saying that, like, oh, I know exactly how it could go and how it could work. But it's like you rob that person of like that experience to like figure it out on their own.
Yeah.
I like that because I was thinking, not y'all, but just it's easy for someone to, like what you said, put their own spin and be like, no, do that. And then that might get the other person like, ooh, should I do it like that? And then it doesn't become their own, you know, from that joint. So I kind of like that bifurcation of, you know, do I just need to be affirmed or is this a solution-based thing? I like that.
Comfort or solution. Shout out to Corey from Essence Magazine. She mentioned it on a podcast a long time ago. And it was one of the things that like we brought into our relationship to just increase the flow of communication.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I like that. So we're gonna see if y'all know each other's worlds. I got a little game. I got a little game. I'm gonna make up the title. How well do y'all know each other?
Yeah. I got a game. Do you know him?
Right. So basically, I'm going to ask one person a question about the other, and we're going to see if that person's response is, you know, accurate. So we're going to do a test to get y'all going. So, Victor, what is DaShawn's favorite color or colors?
Green and blue.
Green and blue. DaShawn, is that right?
Kinda, but yes. Like, it's a hard green, but for some odd reason, I keep buying blue shit. And so I'm like, so that's why I'm like, is blue my favorite color? But yeah, it's a hard green, but yeah, he keeps telling me, he's like, everything you buy is blue. And I'm like, it really do be blue.
No, like specifically everything most things that he buys are green and blue. Like our dog's collar is green and blue. Our new rug for our bedroom is green and blue. I read just like there's a lot of just like green and blue, and I've been seeing it more as we've been like preparing to move. Like, you're surrounded by green and blue. Yeah. So yeah.
It gets earth. Like earthy.
It does. Very grounded, earth sign, Virgo. So yes.
I was about to ask if you were okay. What's your sign, Victor?
I'm a Leo.
Leo, okay. I feel like earth and fire works very well together.
Yeah, we work. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so DaShawn, what are 3 of Victor's favorite artists, music artists?
3. Anita Baker, Shaka Khan, and favorite. Records.
Right.
I was like, I'll put Beyonce in it, even though I feel like she's new, like probably one of the newer favorites. But yeah, but he's like an old school diva, like Aretha Patti,
right.
Like the understanding the classics of like those that have came before Beyonce. But I do think Beyonce like is in the top 3.
Yeah. I mean, definitely Shaka Khan. You said, oh yeah, definitely Shaka Khan and Anita Baker are like definitely.
That's solid. That's without a question.
Yeah. Beyonce, I think he's right. Like I love Beyonce, but I'm definitely a like legend statements. Like stars. Give me icons.
Right.
Like give me icons.
Beyonce learned from them. So.
Yeah, you know. I mean, I think Beyonce would go with me for this third person. It's Prince. But it's I do. And one year for Christmas, he brought me like all of these vinyls, and they were all. It was Gladys Knight, Diana Ross, Donna Summer, like Earth, Wind and Fire. So it's I like I'm a disco.
Very eclectic.
Soul moment. Right. Yeah.
Okay, so y'all doing good so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so Victor, what is DaShawn's favorite movie?
What is DaShawn's favorite movie?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I wonder if he probably won't even guess it.
Yeah.
The funny thing is because I don't think we've ever watched it together.
I don't think we
okay.
have.
Okay.
No, I am drawing a complete blank.
How about this? What's his favorite show? We're gonna get to the movie too, but what's his favorite
his
show?
favorite show is Alias.
Alias. Okay.
Yeah.
Jennifer Garner.
We've talked about that multiple times. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes. And movie
what's the
is
movie?
Crash.
And you
Okay.
have told me that before.
I was like,
we've never watched it together, but you have told me that before.
Because it's like the storytelling of Crash, of just how everyone is like so interconnected. It was the first movie that actually inspired me to be like a creative and more creative. And I was like, this is very well written, very well shot, and the actors inside of that film.
No, I love that film. Reese Witherspoon, Ludacris,
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah. No, it's a good. Yeah. Oh. Okay, we need to watch it.
Learn something new.
Yes.
Now, this is for the both of y'all, so whoever wants to go first.
Okay.
What was y'all's favorite date together?
I think it might be the first date, I'll say.
Okay.
We went to Superica here in Atlanta, and the waitress, she was training, but she had like someone else like with her, and and the lady, she's like, I feel like y'all are celebrating something like special, and Victor is like, we are. It's our first date, and so she came back and gave us tequila shots. But it was, it was very much. We like sat outside. It was very much a magical night. But I think it was also a good grounding and foundation of like our relationship, of like being able to, like, he doesn't drink tequila. I told him like, I love tequila, and so him taking me to like Superica and then like having this tequila base, and he was like, well, if I'm gonna drink a tequila drink, it's going to be this one from Superica. So I felt like it was a good like show of effort and compromise, and I had never been to Superica. So I would say that is mine. What is yours?
One night we went to this Italian restaurant here in Atlanta called Soto. And it wasn't like, we weren't super dressed up. I think we like snagged a reservation like last minute. But at this particular restaurant, it's an Italian restaurant, you can order either like a full size of pasta, or you can order like half sizes. Okay. The only other time that I had gone before was with my mentor, Jamaica, and she was like, we're ordering half sizes so we could just have like pasta, like just a table full of pasta. And she was like, when you should bring somebody on a date here, like, whoa, 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 whoa. And this was like years prior. But one day I was just like, let's just go here for dinner. And we went for dinner, and it's like a white tablecloth restaurant. We ordered a bottle of wine, multiple desserts, and we just like sat and talked and just talked and talked. And it was I think I loved it so much because it reminded me of our first date, where we just sat and talked, and it was the middle of the pandemic, so it was no like rushing or hustle and bustle. And at this point, when we went to Soto, we had the world had kind of opened back up, and we had both been working. I was on set for something, like, there's a lot going on, but like having that time to just like sit and talk and catch up and laugh, because he's hilarious. It's always just good. Those are my favorite moments with him, when we can just, whether it's Paris, London, New York, LA, Curacao, Atlanta, it could be like being
anywhere.
It could be anywhere. Like being with him, and having good food is just like the perfect date.
Yeah. So it sounded like tequila and pasta was at the center of all this.
Tequila and pasta, child.
Tequila, get you a man. Tequila and pasta.
Not together, though.
Right.
They're not together. Yeah, no, that's crazy.
No, get the tequila with your Mexican
Right.
restaurant date. Get a bottle of wine when you go get the pasta. Thank you.
I love to hear that though.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna open it up for questions from our viewers. I already saw one question already from Carl and Aaron. I believe we interviewed
love them.
Yes. Okay, so they say you two seem to keep such eventful schedules, booked and busy. How do you make time for each other and quality time? And where do you set boundaries?
So rules of like, so I have a calendar, and I'm like, if it is not on my calendar, it does not exist. And so it sounds wild, but literally our like date nights or things that we're doing together, like even if it's like today we had a haircut, we did mani pedis, it was like a self-care day, but it was like together, and so we put it on each other's calendars of like, hey, this is important, I want you there. Anything that's optional, we'll tell each other about. We'll most likely forget it until until it's happening and someone's running out the house. It's like, where are you going? It'd be like, I told you about it. They'd be like, nope, not on my calendar. And so I think it is that balance of like being able to put like the important things on the calendar as like a hold and a reminder, not because it's like not because I feel like because we are very destined to be here one day and in another city the next because of work or whatever else like may call us there. And so I think having that calendar definitely helps. And I feel like we also are very intentional about being vocal when we need time, right? And so it's not like, bitch, if you want to get to me, put it on my calendar and we can talk. Like, cause that's
go through my
The calendar, just for the record, is for like dates and it's like engagements and public engagements and stuff like that. It's not like let's spend time together, but it goes back to literally.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no, because it does sound like pencil me in, but no, but it goes back to like the friendship of it all. Is that like we actually really like spending time with each other, and so it isn't one of those things of where I've been in like relationships before where I'm like, bitch, I cannot wait to go. Yeah. I can't wait to go somewhere.
Not can't wait to go.
No, but it's like when we are able to just like be at home, like we're like watching TV, we're catching up on shows, we're like talking, we're going to dinner, and we're really like continuing to just like build our like friendship and relationship. But it's like the friendship of the core of spending quality time together. We have a dog that like that literally, if she could be in your skin, she will be. But it's like just chilling at home. I think is like one of my best moments, and being able to like have that boundary of like, okay, we've done work, we've done the traveling, let's actually also find time for each other.
Yeah, it's really calendar. I think we were both like this in our work lives as well, like before we even started dating. So when we started dating, it was like, now let's also add our personal dates in there, so it can find synergy.
And I will say that was after realizing how wild our schedules were. Because I think it was like literally realized, because before I had never did that. I was like, if we gonna find time, we're gonna go.
But now it was a reality check.
I was like, oh no, like you are really, and I am really So that's how that came to be. It wasn't like, let's just put it on the calendar because it sounds cute. It's like, nah. It's like, what do you really want me at? What do you need to be at?
Yeah. So, and we started dating during the pandemic, so like
nothing was open.
Nothing was open. Once he moved to Atlanta and we made it official, we were kind of like, let's go on a trip. Let's drive over here. Let's da da da. And it was kind of, we could do things
More
together.
flexible, yeah.
Yeah, as the world started opening back up, it was
It's like no.
Or calling me like, hey, can you come here? Call him. Can you? And so that was definitely something we had to like think about. And we also just diversity, equity, and solutions.
Diversity, equity, and solutions.
Discovery.
Oh, discovery.
Discovery, not diversity. This is not a DEI.
It sounded
DEI. Discovery. I was like, discovery, equity, and solutions. Discovery first. There's something about this that I don't know. There's something about this entire experience, environment, situation that I have never experienced or been a part of before. So there's something to discover. Equity. You may be existing in a place where I'm not existing in right now, or vice versa. Let's neutralize everything and come back to people.
Like the same.
Yeah, you know what
balance,
I mean?
Face to face.
It may not be exactly what you want. It may not be exactly what I want, but like once we go through this process of discovery and establishing equity, what then appears? And that becomes like, let's try that. Let's try that so that we're always learning together and growing together. Like we do plan on having kids. We do plan on having a family. So a lot of this decision making and life practice building is so that, you know, when there are children that are a part of this mix, they aren't coming into
chaos.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah. Were you like, what?
Space that's like, you know, open and flexible enough for them to grow and expand and blossom and become themselves. But it will still have, you know, boundaries. It's like a trellis with ivy growing up it. Like the ivy can grow wherever, but the trellis keeps it in place. So yeah.
Discovery, equity, and solution. So it sounds like we see each other. Now, what do we see? And then let's figure it out.
Yes. Yeah. Because we have to like, you got to remind each other like we're on the same side. Ultimately, we want the same thing. When we don't want the same thing, ultimately, then there's another conversation that we're having. Right? But like, ultimately, we want the same thing. Ultimately, we want a life of ease and abundance together.
These are keys to a successful relationship.
But it's also understanding that growth will happen. And so that, I think the discovery part putting like was important, because it's like, I don't want to date the same person that you know, and it's weird because it's like, most people be like, you're not the same person. And it's like, bitch, no, you shouldn't be the same person you were 4 or 5 years ago, because people evolve. And that's that discovery aspect of understanding that like, you're going to change. I'm going to change. What I like will not always be like what you like, but like we have to give each other the room and space to figure that out and discover it like on your own or together. But it is one of those things of that, like, if we're looking at like a successful, and I think that was one of the things, is that like this was probably one of the first relationships where I really was invested in the growth over time of like, what is like, oh shit, no, I really see a future with you. So how do we do that? And what were those areas that like we ran into like with other previous relationships where like there wasn't any growth, like there wasn't like people didn't change, or I was growing and they weren't, or like or we were growing at you know different pieces, and not allowing space for us to discover things. Like nothing's worse than being with someone that like is, you know, consistently negative, and it's like, where are the solutions? Like we got enough problems. Where are the solutions? Like so it's that and equitable of like, again, of understanding that like you won't always have the same information. And so you're deciding this because you think that, I'm deciding this because I think that. But it's like, how do we just, again, like get back on like that equal field so that we can just talk about like whatever it is and then like move forward. So yeah, I did want to just include that like growth is important, but growth is also natural for any person, whether you're single or you're in a relationship, and it's just understanding that like you will change and you have to be with somebody that is willing to accept whatever those changes may be as life goes on.
I love that. Leaving everything on the table and then just growing from that foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got one final question. So what do y'all have planned for Valentine's Day?
I don't know.
I know y'all are busy.
It's like Michael Jackson, baby.
You tell me.
No, it's funny because when you all invited us to do it, to do this interview, which thank you so much for inviting us.
Of course.
And thank you to everybody who put our names, who tagged us under that post. We saw all of them. We appreciate you. We appreciate the love. But the funny thing is, like, we were available on this day and at
y'all
this
did
time.
say that.
Because we hadn't planned anything. And literally, like, Monday we had something. Tuesday.
Weren't y'all traveling?
We were traveling last weekend. Nobody knows where we are in the world. It's really
okay.
But but we've just been traveling. We were preparing for the Grammys, and then we're in Vegas for Super Bowl weekend, and just like all these things. So we're just really happy to be home today, to be haircut, nails did,
and that's what I was saying. Like,
and
it
dog
very
sleep.
much was like that self-care aspect earlier. So like that haircut, the mani-pedi, but it was like that was the treat. That was like because we would have got on this live rough. It's like because we just hadn't had that time. But like because Monday was screenings. Yesterday there was like a screening for the Bold and Bougie, which is actually about queer representation. Gaucher is on there. It's like it's centering around her and her business and stuff too that's coming on WeTV. And so we saw a screening of that yesterday, and then tomorrow Victor's doing like a historically black phases live.
Back to back. Okay.
Yes, tomorrow night at the Gathering Spot.
I think I saw something about that.
It's going to be really good. This is their book, Historically Black Phrases. They're doing a book tour called Historically Black Phrases Live, and the tour is a trivia show. So it'll be, I'm a contestant, OBL Jones is a contestant, and Spirit is the third contestant. It's going to be a lot of fun. The ticket link is in my bio. So.
Okay. Historically Black Phrases, and it's tomorrow.
Yep.
Tomorrow. Okay.
And so that's tomorrow, and then Friday I felt like was our like rest.
Yeah, Friday was just like rest
in the middle of moving, and so that was one of those things. I was like, Wednesday seemed like the day to do this. Join y'all. You join us, but this is
the perfect day too.
Yeah, we're gonna go somewhere. We'll have dinner. We'll eat dinner. We have to eat. But yeah.
This was. I was gonna also ask, do you guys have anything else that y'all wanted to announce? I'm glad you brought up the history.
No, that was the week.
Okay, that was the whole week.
We're just taking you through what we did this week. That was it. But yeah, tomorrow come hang out with me at the Gathering Spot for Historically Black Phrases Live. This is a book by my friends Jared Hill and Travell Anderson. They're both incredible people. This is going to be a hilarious time. It's a trivia show. OBL Jones, who I absolutely adore, will be a contestant, as well as Spirit, who is a new friend, and I'm so excited to hang out with her tomorrow night. But other than that, life is new music in the spring. Be on the lookout for that. But yeah, that's it, child. We just trying to get through the rest of
it sounds like y'all taking it really day by day.
Q1 is a whole thing. No, we're taking it day by day. But really, again, thank you all so much for extending this invitation to us, but also everything that you do for the community. How you keep us informed and entertained and on our toes, baby.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. Hope y'all have fun though. I don't want to take too much of the time, but this is definitely fun, and I hope y'all have a good Valentine's Day. Thank y'all again for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye, y'all.
All right.
All right.